Welcome to our Time to Talk Day special, and welcome to our webinar. Since it is Time to Talk Day, the team at Seniorcare thought it would be very apt to do a webinar on mental health support, of course. Every day at Seniorcare, we hear about the challenges and hardships that face unpaid caregivers at work. Balancing care and work has a number of consequences on us, but the mental health impact is always the hardest to navigate and the longest to last. So that's why I'm really delighted to introduce Counterpoise to lead this webinar on supporting yourself to support others better. Counterpoise specialise in providing truly accessible, affordable and effective therapy for those that need the support. And opening that up to employees in the workplace seems like an important move, especially on a day like today. So yeah, we're very lucky to facilitate this webinar and have the Counterpoise team share their expertise and experience with us today. And rather than continue blabbing on through the entire webinar, I would love to now introduce Kitty, Alice and Jess Harrison to introduce themselves and take the webinar away. Thank you so much, guys.
Oh, thank you, Robin.
Well, thank you, Robin.
Done.
Yeah. Really well done. That was a lovely introduction. Thank you.
Oh, and thank you guys for taking the time today. Obviously, it is Time for Talk Day, and we hope that you'll get something from this. As Robin said, we are Counterpoise, which means equal balance, which really shines through in everything that we do, kind of finding a good balance in life and kind of being able to look after ourselves, whether that's kind of mentally, physically. And that's really part of our multidisciplinary team that we have on offer. So as Robin said, we are a therapy provider. We have a brilliant team of experienced professionals working in evidence-based modalities. And we offer affordable support from £22. And we work with educational sectors, businesses and private clients. And we run incredible webinars like this. And we just feel so lucky to be here today. So thank you to Lottie for having us. We are in partnership with Lottie, and it's an organisation which really means something to us both personally. We've both used Lottie in the past and really appreciate their work. And today we're just going to be kind of talking about how you can support yourself as individuals, but also how we can look after each other together. Whether that's kind of within your family setting, in your friendship circle, in caring roles, or within work. So this webinar is really an hour for us to spend some concentrated time looking at how you can support yourselves. Some of this you might have known for a while, and it'll just be kind of concreting what's already there. But we hope that everyone can take something from this. So I'm Kitty, and Jess is our Director of Therapeutics, and we're going to get into this workshop, which is supporting yourself so you can support others.
Oh, thank you. It's lovely to hear your introductions. I feel really warm and excited about what we're doing today. So I'm a therapist. I also have personal experience of being in the care sector as somebody who's been accessing provision in a care home. I've been a carer for somebody in a care home. I've also been a carer for somebody in my home, unpaid work, and I've also been a carer for somebody when they're in their home. So it's really is a privilege to be here today, and I mean that fully from my heart, because I really think that the work that you're doing in whatever place that you are in senior care, I really want you to know that I really value it. And hopefully what we're doing today is giving you just 3/4 of an hour to just really think about yourself and think about the work you do, and know that it's valued, and know that if you look after yourself, you're possibly going to be doing a better job for yourself and for everybody that comes into your work. So it is a day where we're really thinking about mental health. And so in these slides today, some of it will feel like revision. It'll feel like things which are really obvious, but it really is a time to come and think about it and think about what might be working or not working for you, because that will feed into how you live your life and how you do the caring that you have to do. So mental health, it doesn't just include how we think about ourselves. In terms of definition, it really is how we are behaving, how we are with the people around us, how we might be feeling physically, and how we are emotionally. And all these things are linked. So we talk about mental health as just being something about the way that we think and perceive the world, but everything is joined. So when we're talking about mental health today, on a day like this, we're thinking more about how we are in the world. So sometimes our mental health can really spread into how we feel physically, how we feel emotionally, whether we're feeling strong or not, and how we behave. And so when we are looking at the slides today, we're going to be incorporating all those things into how you can support yourself and therefore do the work that you need to do best. Next slide. Thank you. So as Robin said, we really do know that in just 45 to 50 minutes, we're probably not going to encapsulate everything that you might need, but what we're going to do is shine a light on a few things that could be helpful, hopefully. So first of all, I really want you to think about, is there really a time when you can actually just check in with yourself and see how you're feeling emotionally or physically, or how you're behaving? So if you want to, you can pop it on the chat, or you can just make a little note for yourself. And just for a brief second here, think about, when did I really check in with how I'm doing, how I'm feeling? It could be that you'd never have time for this. It could be that you rarely have time, or it could be that you're doing it regularly. A recent survey by the World Health Organization indicated that individuals who engage in regular self-care, checking in with themselves and checking in whether they're caring for themselves well, report a 30% increase in overall life satisfaction. So this is today permission to do it, not just now, but incorporate it into your life, because then you're giving yourself a chance to feel 30% better in the way that you feel satisfied in yourself. And if you don't prioritize personal and self-care, you might actually have a 30% decrease. So let's give ourselves a bit of time, acknowledge that if we do it, it's going to be good for us and it's going to be good for those around us. 30% is a pretty nice stat. So give yourself a little number. I'll take it. Yeah. Gives me permission to do it. So self-satisfaction will be around all those areas we were talking about before. It'll be how you feel emotionally, how you're behaving, how you might feel physically. So just give yourself a little number. You can share it on the chat if you'd like to. If that's not your style, just keep it for yourself. And remember that if you're the kind of person who never has time, maybe you want to notch it up to one of the other numbers. Okay. We really want to let you know that what we're doing here is realistic. We're people too. And as we both said, we both understand what it's like in our particular professional and personal journeys to be part of a community who are looking at caring or being in the care system in some way. So we really want to acknowledge that the slide before is kind of blue sky and how lovely and fluffy that is and how warm that might feel. But we do actually feel some guilt. Caregiver guilt it really does exist. So if you are the kind of person who feels guilty about giving yourself some time, remember that 60% of caregivers do feel some guilt. You're not alone in that. And 63% of caregivers experience not just guilt, but stress and which can lead to resentment. So 2/3 of you will be feeling this. It's okay. We know that it's real. But if you can give yourself a bit of a chance to give yourself some support, then you have 30% chance of feeling better in the world. We just wanted to make sure that you know that we get that does actually exist. Okay, so given that you're more likely to feel stress and anxiety than people who don't work in the care sector, we thought we'd just give you a little bit of an idea of how you can identify stress and anxiety in yourself. So stress and anxiety, stress particularly, is not a bad thing. We all need it in our life. It can be motivating. It can make us feel like we've got some sense of purpose. But when it goes up into too high stress and becomes more anxious, that's when it's tipping into something that's not so useful. So one of the ways to sort of figure out whether you're tipping out of healthy stress into more unhealthy and anxiety riding stress is to take some time to monitor yourself and your mood. Now, I'm the age that I am. I have a paper diary. And so what I do once a week or once every day, but certainly regularly, is I just track my mood. I find this useful because it means that if you track your mood, that you're more likely to see some patterns around it. So the way that I do that is to track your mood from 0 to 10. So 10 is a good mood. So you can track your joy from 0 to 10. How much joy am I able to feel today? If you're on 8, that's a pretty good day. If you're only on 3, there's a little bit there, but it's quite hard to muster. You can track your joy, or you can track how your stress, or another mood like sadness. You can choose two or three words to track it, and then keep a log of it. So I do it in a paper diary once a week. And what it enables me to do is see some patterns. So I'm imagining that maybe in your work, it might be around certain appointments that you have to make, or certain appointments that you might be attending for the people who are in your care, or certain shifts that you're working. I'm imagining that it might be around how much time you've spent with people that you care about over and above your caregiving role or your job role. So if any of those sort of scenarios are chiming with you, this one might be a good thing for you to do. Track your mood regularly and see where the patterns are. Another thing that also all of us will be acknowledging at the moment is sometimes the seasons or the time of year can affect our mood. But if we track them, then we know that we might need to make some space around it. Doesn't sound like rocket science, but I can assure you it's relatively easy to put into your day-to-day life or weekly life, and then it's relatively easy to track some and identify some of the stresses that might be coming in.
It's one of those that until you do it, it can feel like, well, I always feel stressed before a certain appointment, but until you've actually tracked it and you can see those themes, sometimes it's like that light bulb moment, that until you see it on paper or until you've actually given yourself that time, that you can really kind of see the themes and see where things might be spiking or certain emotions are spiking. And like you said, it's just about being able to identify that so that then you can give yourself some of the tools that we're going to go into just to better cope with those themes.
Yeah. So I find this really, really useful. And it's something certainly that therapists use. If you ever were getting to a point where you thought that things were unmanageable, then you might go to a therapist. A therapist would ask you to do this anyway. So why not do it as a preventative? One of the things particularly on today that we wanted to talk about is sharing your problems. So there is actually quite a lot of science behind the fact that we need to connect as human beings, and that by saying things out loud, it literally can alleviate some of the load that we feel that we're carrying. So you felt it was very important, Kitty, didn't you, to put this particular one in about connecting and talking to people?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of our universal needs, isn't it? And I think especially when we might be struggling or finding things harder, a lot of people retreat or kind of keep it to themselves even more so. But actually being able to share your problems and talk about them, it's something that we always kind of reference as get outside and talk to people. But by doing that, you're kind of breaking down those barriers and giving yourself kind of you're actually saying it, which sometimes can help you process in different ways. And also just starting that connection with other people and knowing that you're building a relationship with them, like you're in something with someone else. You're not just on your own with these things.
I think that's really, really important, that last bit you said there, Casey, because sometimes we work alone and sometimes we work in teams. If we work alone, then getting out and sharing it, it can be with a joke, it can be a reference, it can be just looking up and saying, oh, it's a rainy day again. It's not nice to be in a rainy day. It's just acknowledging that actually you're not alone in this by saying it out loud. In teams, it might be that you make a joke about, oh, it's Wednesday at 9 o'clock again. It's that time of day. But some way of connecting to the feelings so that they don't just build up as a big load on your own. So we're going to go on to some more ideas about how you can actually look after yourself. So one of the things we were just touching on there was about connection. And we've also touched on stress, which can tip into anxiety. So there's a part of your brain called the amygdala. And the amygdala is managing your stress. And it's setting off a stress response in your brain and therefore in your body. And so the amygdala is something that we need to look after if we can, because if it is enacted too often, you will feel stressed a lot. So we're just going to explain a little bit about the amygdala. We call it the smoke alarm center of the brain. It's a very small part of the brain, and 2 out of 3 of the neurons in the amygdala will be scanning for danger. It's assessing all the time. Am I safe? Do I need to turn on my stress reaction? What's going on around me? So it will be looking for signs of danger or signs of stress, and it will be looking for safety as well. And this will lead to how you regulate your body. Other parts of the nervous system will also be scanning for a friendly, safe space. So other parts of your brain and therefore your nervous system will be looking for safety, but the amygdala specifically is looking for danger. When it finds a safe space, other parts of the brain will engage with it and calm you down. But if the amygdala is finding a stressful space, it will react. So our nervous system will default to either a flexible position of I'm okay, or it will start to enact a system called fight, flight, or shutdown. And when you go into fight, flight, or shutdown, it's what we call stress. But if you go too far up into it, you will start to get a response. The fight response might be that you get really cross. The flight might be that you panic and that you feel panic and you want to go, or you can shut down. So when we talk about regulation, we're talking about trying to get the amygdala to calm down. We're talking about noticing the safe bits around you, the smiling situations, the calmness around you, so that the amygdala doesn't turn on your whole nervous system. Does that make sense? Did I explain that okay?
Yeah, I mean, I really like this slide. I find this one really interesting, and I think the universal fact that as individuals we have this part of our brain, and 2/3 are searching for danger. So the odds are kind of swaying towards finding that stressful situation, and actually being aware that you need to provide and look out for that one third of your amygdala, just to kind of reassure it and look after it. And I think knowing that made such a difference for me, kind of being like, okay, so 2/3 are going to search for danger, so actually I need to make a conscious effort to search for the safety and the calmer and the nice part. And I think knowing this is also really helpful when you're trying to support other people. If you know that they are dysregulated, or that you are kind of noticing that they might be stressed and overwhelmed, just thinking about how you might be able to adapt to support that 1/3 for them. Yeah.
So this is when we start talking about regulation and co-regulations. They're just words that you might see around. But if we are regulated, if we're looking after our amygdala and feeling more calm, we are regulated. If we're not calm, or if we're going into fight or flight, if the amygdala is really stimulated, then we will be deregulated. And so as humans, we're not only doing this for ourselves, but we're looking for the reassurance from other humans all the time. So in our work and in our caring situation, are you feeling stressed? Will that impact the people around you? Will the people around you feeling stressed or deregulated, will that be impacting you? It's just bringing that into your awareness and noticing that that might actually be affecting your stress long term. Okay, I'm just going over it again, really, aren't I? But I love this bit. Honestly, it is a game changer. I used to work in schools quite a lot, and I used to work with people with specific learning needs or neurodivergent needs. And I'm sure that the people in your community here in Seniorcare will have a lot more understanding about brain function and particular kind of brain demise and how that might affect people's behaviour. We're not specialists in that, but we are specialists in understanding how, if as individuals we can feel more regulated, then it's only going to be good for us, and hopefully it can impact the people around us. So if you're regulated and your team members are more likely to be, and you know how sometimes you just walk in a room and you think, oh, everybody's quite stressed today. If you can bring that amygdala understanding to the room and find a way to regulate yourself and calm down, that's only going to impact the client group, the resident group, or your caring group, and the staff too. Practicing how to regulate, which we're going to get onto in a moment, in your spare time, in your quieter time, will add to your toolkit, and it'll also enable the amygdala to know that it can do that calm down quicker. If your amygdala is always stimulated, it will know how to get there really quickly. It'll be looking for the danger signs more than it will be the cooling off signs. So breathing techniques will relax your body and therefore relax the amygdala, and will reset your brain so it comes out of fight or flight so that you can regulate all your emotions. Grounding and being where you are also allows the amygdala to engage with things that are just safe. So we're going to talk about grounding in a moment. It brings your attention right to where you are in the present and will help the amygdala to calm down so the overwhelm will follow it. Positive self-talk can overcome negative critical thinking. So positive self-talk will be engaging with the safer part of the amygdala response. So sometimes we can get very addicted and very competent at negative critical thinking. I'm not doing a very good job. It's one of those bad days, or things that we might be saying to ourselves. Would you be saying that out loud to somebody else? Would you say you're not very good? Would you say you're making my day a bad one? If you wouldn't, then try not to do that to yourself. Thinking about how we talk to ourselves is really important, guys. It really can calm down your stress response. So what I do know about nearly everybody who's in this particular community of caregiving is that you're really, really skilled at being helpful and supportive. So doing it for yourself, saying to yourself, I'm doing my best, I'm enough, I'm still learning, would possibly be the way that you might respond to somebody who you were caring for. So do it for yourself. If we're regulated, those around us will find it easier to regulate. So with all that in mind, I thought we might regulate ourselves just a little bit. I'm going to give you a couple of things that you can do to help regulate your amygdala. And I'm just going to do something now, which is called touch points. So just notice, if you give yourself out of 10, how you're feeling on the stress response, whether you're feeling completely chilled and relaxed, you'll probably be on 0 or 1. If you're feeling really quite stressed because something else might have happened before you came to join us today, you might be up higher. If you can, you can put it in the chat if you want, or just make a little note of how relaxed or how stressed you might be feeling right now. And then when you've done that, we're just going to do a touch points pause. See what happens to our amygdala response. So I'm moving around in my seat, putting my feet on the ground. I'd invite you to put your feet on the ground and just get comfortable in your seat wherever you are today. And maybe close your eyes or soften your gaze. And just bring your mind to where you are right now by bringing your mind to focus on where your body is touching something. It could be that you bring your focus to your feet and notice how your feet are completely supported with what they're touching, whether that's carpet or floor or socks or what you're wearing. Just know that no effort is required as your feet are completely supported in this moment. Allow your focus to come up to the next touch point where your body touches. It could be the back of your thighs, could be the back of your calves, the back of your legs, being supported entirely by the chair or the sofa where you are right now. And just let that part of your body release and relax into where it's touching something that completely supports it. And just let go of any need to support yourself right now as the chair is doing it for you. And bring your focus now to your back. Any part of your back that's being fully supported where you are right now. The base of your spine, the middle of your spine, your shoulder blades, your shoulders. Just let them relax and ease into the full support of the chair right now. And just experience your body not having to do a thing at all. Everywhere that it's touching is supporting it. You may want to open your gaze, open your eyes, and re-engage to where you are. You might find that you want to move. I find when I do this that I often want to move my neck, because as my body is relaxing and as my nervous system is relaxing, some of the tension is moving around in my neck, so I just move it around to let it move. Now that touch point exercise is something you can do at any point. If you do it on your own, it'll be helping you to know that you can relax when you need to, and then when you need to, it should be well practiced to do it. So if you can just engage with what number you might be on now. I know I'm definitely more relaxed than I was before.
Yeah, me too.
Are you?
Yeah.
I do always end up
Well,
doing
me
that after
too.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's just a little exercise for a little pause, a little bit of self-care. And now another way of thinking about your self-care is to think about the 6 pillars of self-care. You love this, don't you, Kitty?
I love this. This is something that I just find so interesting, because I think it's so easy to kind of feel like we're all unique individuals and we all have something that we're managing. And I think we can often feel all consumed by our situations and our circumstances that we're managing. And when this was explained to me that we've got these pillars, 6 pillars that we all have, and some of them might not be as important as other pillars to us. I mean, for me, physical's way up there as importance for me and my self-care. However, kind of the recreational is something that I'm still developing, and that's totally fine. I mean, these aren't pillars that all have to be full, but I think being able to look at these pillars and kind of identify that, okay, if physical has always been helpful to me, but actually I'm still not feeling good, maybe I need to explore another area. I just found this so interesting that these are all pillars of self-care, and sometimes they might need to, different ones might need to be fuller. And also just knowing it for other people as well. I really like this one.
Yeah, so you do love this one, and I think it means something different to a lot of us. But universally, we all have things that we need in our life to keep us well grounded. They're the foundations, if you like. That's why they're pillars. They're the foundations that we can grow and be who we want to be on. So the physical one, really, for you, Kitty, you know that getting exercise and moving and time outside is really important. That has to be in your life. So it might be that physically, if you're really familiar with that pillar of self-care, if you're really familiar with the fact that you need it, then you do it a lot, but it might mean that something gets dropped out. So I know for me, physical is really important and the financial one is really important. I know that if I am not tracking my money, that it'll creep up as a real stress and a real worry if I don't track it. So that's something that I find I have to do. So we've sort of put a few ideas in there about how financial tracking could be important for self-care. For some people, that's not important at all. But obviously, what we do know is that we all need enough money to live. So it is a universal need. Recreational, again, this is something that I personally find difficult, and I would imagine certainly in my caring years I found it particularly difficult to fit this in, to make time for my hobbies, make time just for me. If there's somebody in the house that I'm caring for, how can I ever get any space? And so for me, I like the idea of sometimes having some escapism. So these are just guidances really for knowing that if you sometimes feel overwhelmed and very stressed, think about these 6 categories and think about, okay, I'm the kind of person who needs my house to be tidy. I know that my environmental self-care is something that I need to spend some time on. I know that I'm the kind of person who needs to go outside and do exercise. So these are just really guidances for you to zero in on and have a look at whether you're looking after them in some balance. Now, there are 6. So what we tend to find is that we'll usually have maybe 2 or 3 that we've got down that we do absolutely automatically, and there may be some that fall by the wayside. So we've put some examples in. It might be something you want to take away. If you're doing this with the recording, you might want to make a little note of them and fill them in with things. And if there are some that are empty, I'd be curious about that. Do you need to fill them? Is this the time to fill them, or is this a time to plan to fill them at some time? Yeah. What we put in the mental and emotional one is more about what, so the mental one is we put mindfulness, which kind of is feeding into the idea that we really do need to make sure that our stress levels are okay. So the next slide is really talking about how we do that.
Yeah, and so this next slide is an example of something that you can do. We don't have time to go into it, but what we've planned with Lottie is for a resource to be sent out tomorrow. So look out for that in your inboxes, just something that you can continue. But this is another grounding method that is really good for your nervous system.
Yeah, so we won't do it now, but it's really brilliant. We have 5 senses, we have 5 fingers. So if you're going out and you find that you're really thinking about lists of things, or you're feeling a bit overwhelmed or stressed, you would make your brain focus on 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can feel, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. Do it as slowly as possible. That really centers the amygdala back into a regulated state. Your nervous system will respond to it. Everything will relax as the nervous system becomes more flexible, because if it knows that the 5 things that you can see and all those things that you're engaging with are okay, it will calm you down. It is brilliant, but we haven't got time to do that today. So take a look when you're on your own, perhaps. So other things that we can do to relax and make our nervous system more flexible is really taking time to be in the now. So our lives can be very busy, and our lives can also be quite boring, but our mind is full. So being consciously present and thinking about where you are right now is really good for the brain. The mindful exercise that we just gave you was 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The 3-3-3 is an abbreviated version of that. So 3 things that you can see, 3 things that you can hear, and 3 things that you can feel on your body. You might go into touch points there. So I know I'm giving you lots of information, but all these things are relevant because we're all slightly different. We have universal needs, and our brains will respond to these exercises. But you might find that there's one that you're really drawn to and that you just think, yeah, that's going to be mine. So being a single tasker is really good for your brain as well, and really good to get your stress levels down and maintain a sense of, I'm okay, I don't need to worry about all the other things going on in my brain. Consciously making yourself, perhaps it could be applying to making yourself a cup of tea, really making your brain focus on that rather than thinking of what's coming next or what's just happened. Scheduling in nothing time is really important too. This is a favourite of yours, isn't it, Kitty?
Yeah. Actually blocking it in your diary as though it's a meeting, and it's kind of that time just for you, and it can kind of evolve into something. Maybe you do something that's part of the self-care pillars. You can use that time, but just actually sectioning that time where it's like, no one else can book me, no one else has any ownership of this time, this is just for me.
I really like that, because spontaneity as well. How many of us even have spontaneity at the moment? So blocking some time out, it can be 15 minutes, it can be an hour of just, that's nothing else can be booked in. Let's see what happens. Mindful work is really thinking about the idea of slowing down. Being a single tasker, as we've referred to, slowing down actually makes makes your brain engage with what it's doing, so you're more likely to remember it. If you slow down with your tasks, then you really will remember it, and you won't think, oh, have I done that? Do I need to do it again? I'm certainly guilty of that. That's something that I will do. I'll go over things too many times because I think I haven't done them. If you slow down, your brain really will function better, and then it enables you to speed up and not have to go over it again. Having a mindful lunch outside, this is one of my favorites. Eating on the go. I know we all have to do it. We certainly do with coffee breaks and tea breaks. We'll sort of quickly shove a biscuit in if we're lucky enough to get one, drink a tea and it goes cold. But actually, with a mealtime, it's really good for your body. Your body will actually digest better if your brain is functioning with the whole act of eating. That's a scientific fact. So it's really good for you to have mindful lunches, not just for your brain, but for your body as well and your digestion. Breathing. Now, I'm a therapist, and I think that, and I also do lots of yoga, and certainly in a lot of the modalities that I use in therapy, we do talk about breathing, because it regulates us so that we can become clear thinking and get our emotions back to where we want them to be. So if you're finding yourself getting overwhelmed or getting more and more het up about something, set a timer for 2 minutes and just focus on your breathing. Even if it's fast, it doesn't matter. Just put one hand on your chest and just let yourself know that your body is functioning and looking after you, even if your brain is feeling a bit overwhelmed. Listening to soothing sounds are really good, especially rain and water. We are animals after all. We do like, scientifically it's proven, we do like natural sounds from the outside. So all of these things are just little ideas. You probably know them, but what we're doing today is really zeroing in on them so that we can revisit it. It's really obvious, but there are some things to avoid. There are some things to avoid to make us feel stressed out so that we're not as good at supporting ourselves and doing the job at hand. Stimulants like coffee, tea, chocolate, all these things, I know that they are good for us in small amounts. Our nutritionists will say that, but they're not good if we have too many of them. They're not good after a certain time of day, and they're certainly not good on an empty stomach. Retreating
So when
indoors
we
so that
run these workshops, we really we talk to our whole team, don't we? And we kind of say, look, is there anything that you would want to kind of contribute to this? And our nutrition team were like, if there's one key takeaway to put into this workshop, it would be don't drink coffee on an empty stomach. And they were letting us in on the science of that, and just how, with nothing else in our stomach, if you have coffee and you haven't eaten, what that does as a stimulant is it spikes everything that we've been talking about, and it actually makes your amygdala work double as hard. So it's even harder for us to kind of find that calm. So if you take anything from our nutrition team, let it be, have something before your coffee.
treat yourself to a biscuit, or make sure you get your breakfast in, those kind of things. Okay, avoiding retreating indoors. We all need our downtime and we all need time on our own. But when you're actually retreating and thinking, I can't go out, I don't want to go out, it's too much to go out, that's a sign that actually you need to go out. It seems counterintuitive, but you do need to get out and connect with others, because suffering in silence is just not good for you. Sharing the load and being around other people is really important. And as we alluded to before, we would urge you to give yourself time to check in with yourself, because if you don't, it's really not going to help you more long term. Make sure you have some fun, some leisure, and some time off. It might be tricky, but we're giving you full permission today to do that. One of the things that I wanted to say, and I know that we've got lots more slides and lots to fit in. One of the things that somebody said to me when I was a carer was, if you're no good to yourself, you're no good to others. And it makes so much sense. This big light bulb went off in my brain about that. Like, if I don't look after myself, I can't care for the person who I love so much and who I want to, or I can't care for the person who is being looked after for others and make sure that everything's okay. So give yourself permission to have fun and have leisure or some time off. The other good things that you can do to really treat yourself is, if you are going to retreat from the world, have some creativity in there. Do colouring, anything. You don't have to be particularly arty. Do something that feels creative. Listen to music. Discover and make sure that you put some fun in there. Really, really think about your sleep routine, because sleep is the foundation of everything. And allow yourself time to sometimes have brain numbing time. Sitting indoors watching your favourite programmes is good for you sometimes. It can be something that really feeds and resources you. We're going to talk a little bit more about Insight Timer on one of the other slides. It's an app that you're going to be getting at the end of this, and also there's going to be a resource that you can take away with you today. Getting outside and looking at the world from a new perspective, going somewhere that you haven't seen before, can really be good for your brain. It fosters growth, and it fosters ideas and different perspective on what's going on internally. So if you emulate that by going somewhere externally that you've never been before, it's really good for you. Being part of a community, if you can, whether it's online or in a group or even a working community, is really good for you. Communicate, and joy and laughter, cracking a joke, knowing that there's somewhere you can go, even if it's watching comedy or getting into comedy. These things are all important. So we're coming to the end of our time together, but these are universal needs, as we said before. All of us as human beings have them. And in your community of being in the caring population, please know and acknowledge and give yourself permission to feel connected to yourself and therefore to the world around you, to respect yourself, give yourself time, and so you'll be respecting your work and everything that you do. Know that being seen and heard is something that's really important and you deserve it. The amount of kindness that you give in your work, allow yourself to receive it too. Give yourself some compassion and give yourself some time to really be present with yourself. So we're really rounding up what we're talking about today. I hope that some of the stuff that you have gleaned today has given you some knowledge that you're already doing a really good job and given you the space to look at it again. Some of it might be new to you. This is being recorded so that you can look at it in your own time. But remember that everything that we've said today is important. Even if you only take 1 or 2 bits away, that could be enough so that you can carry on doing the brilliant work that you're doing and be as good as you can to yourself.
And what we've kind of stated here at the bottom is really emphasizing that if you're looking after yourself, it has that ripple effect on other people around you. And there's some technical terms here, so game modeling behaviors. So if you do it for yourself, it will promote it in other people too. So being able to look after yourself is looking after the people around you too. And then also mirroring behaviors. So if someone is particularly deregulated, they're struggling and you can see it on them, they're wearing their stress, which we know can be infectious, making a really conscious effort to do the exact opposite. So talking really slowly, making sure that you release the tension in your jaw and your shoulders, smile, doing all of those things, because if stress is infectious, so is the element of looking after yourself and being calm and being regulated. And I think that's really what we're trying to communicate when we're talking about supporting yourself and support others. And I know Jess has spoken a lot about being a carer, and as someone who has been cared for in the past, I would just like to really stress the fact that knowing that your carer is looking after themselves and they're kind of filling their cup, if you like, and making sure that they are giving themselves the space and time, makes the person that's being cared for, like, you can see that on them, and we want that for people as well. So I think just making an effort to kind of give that to yourself, and we've referenced caregivers guilt, but just being aware that that ripple effect is definitely happening, even if it feels uncomfortable to begin with. But just to finish up, we're very proud partners of Lottie. And Lottie are doing such incredible work. And if you're ever stuck and you're not sure what to do or how to get the support that you need, please use Lottie. They really are there to support you. And we have a code with Lottie which gives all of Lottie's community discounted therapy and support from our team, which you can use on our website. We've just stated a few apps here, some that we've referenced today. These are free apps that you can get. And if you want to email us, we can kind of send you the codes for those as well. But Insight Time is particularly good. I mean, this is one that I always bang on about. But you can access lots of different practitioners on there. Even if you've got 2 minutes or you've got 30 minutes to stick in your headphones whilst you're walking, you can access so much goodness on there, from meditations to self-talks to guided yoga. There's such a bank of greatness on there. Like Headspace and Calm, or if you're more kind of scientific and you're more kind of on the physical side of the self-care, Nourishly is great for tracking your mood and food, when we were talking about tracking things. But again, you will get a resource in your inbox tomorrow, so do keep an eye out for that, just to kind of continue some of these things, whatever it might be that's resonated with you. But really, we just wanted to open the floor. If anyone's got any questions, anything that they would like to ask, we have put our email just at the bottom, because we know that there's a lot of information that we're trying to cram in such a short space of time. And sometimes when you resonate on things and you think about things later on, you might have questions. So please do feel free to email us. But if anyone does have any questions, we can look at those now.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, guys. That was absolutely wonderful. I just have to say that I did the I did the touch points exercise live in the office. I felt very zen. Maybe I got some odd looks, but I felt way calmer. So thank you so much. That was a really, really insightful and excellent webinar. We do have a few questions. So there is one question that is aimed at the pillar slide. Is there a pillar that people often overlook?
Yes, absolutely. So we find that often when we talk about our pillars, and this is especially in our workshops and the work that we do, people often ignore the recreational pillar. And kind of giving us that time to almost just do whatever we want with that time and be creative with that. And I know that Jess referenced kind of that spontaneity, and it's hard to gift ourselves that even when we've got the opportunity. So I think if you do have time to look at the pillars, look at some of the examples that we put on the recreational one. And it's time to just experiment with what you're doing and kind of try something completely different, which can sometimes feel a bit uncomfortable. But recreational is the one that people struggle with more often than not. Would you agree, Jess?
I mean, I think it's really, really personal. I think when we put, I centered it on the financial one because I know that's really important to me. And I think that for some people, and maybe this might be something that's more pertinent to the particular population community that we're talking to today, that sometimes financial can be one that people do actually find it difficult to manage, because financial is kind of like job security, and sort of career pathways. And so some people haven't got the choice, that they can't really invest in that. So that might be something different. That might be, what do I do to feel wealthy? That, and what do I need to do to look after that? But certainly I think Kitty's right. I think the idea of socializing in that spontaneity, I think that we've really lost that a lot. All our time seems to be used up. So spontaneity in there is really key.
Fantastic. I think the financial one really resonated with me. I think I get really stressed out over financial matters, even sometimes, most of the time, illogically. Would you recommend any sort of exercises that I could do to start combating that that immediate stress and sometimes illogical stress that I might have financially?
So I would say compartmentalizing your brain in the way that you are with your time. When we talk a little, we did have a big slide on time management.
We did.
So I'm so glad that
No
you're
time
bringing
for the
this up.
time.
This is brilliant.
No time for time.
Well, exactly. So for me personally, what I do is I know that there's a certain time on a Friday that I look at my finances and make myself do it. And sometimes I'm avoiding it because I'm a little bit worried that I might have spent too much or I haven't got enough coming in. So I block that time out psychologically, so that if I'm getting overwhelmed and stressed about it on a Tuesday, I can say, you need to stop thinking about this now, because Friday is going to come. So time blocking and time management can actually really help with overthinking about something that you know is one of your stressors. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. And that also really resonated with me, the sort of the me time, the sort of nothing time. That's because I'm a people pleaser through and through, to my detriment. And that's something that really resonated with me. Like, what's the best way of finding the balance between that nothing time and the sort of, I might be missing out on family, friends, career opportunity?
So that's why we kind of look at these sort of, if you look at the 6 pillars, one of the things that happens is these are universal needs, and we've categorized them in these particular titles because we're hoping that it covers all the needs that we all have. So it's realistic to probably have 2 to 4 firing on all cylinders. So again, the idea is, I might be feeling like I'm missing out socially. I might be feeling like I'm not pleasing the people well enough that I'm used to pleasing with. But these are the 3 that I have to concentrate at the moment, because if you don't do those 3, everything will fall apart. So like Kitty said, there might be 3 which are more important to you, and they have to be prioritized. And then you have to work in how the other 3 are going to be managed as well. Does that kind of give you an idea? Because it's impossible for us to be getting all 6 of them balanced all the time. That's an impossibility. That's the reality. But if we know the first 3 that are most important to us, then we can keep the other 3 in focus and think, oh, I haven't given any attention to that one. Where am I going to get that in?
Yeah, it's almost a bit of give and take, isn't it? It's almost like knowing where you're lacking that bit of mental resilience and sort of investing in it a bit more than maybe something else. I think that's a really powerful message. We do have another question in the Q&A section. So they say, thank you for this. Do you have more examples of brain numbing time?
Brain numbing time. Well, this is really interesting. So one of the things that we can do, our brain wants to be busy. It wants to be stimulated all the time. So any of the mindfulness things that we've got on the apps and any of the grounding techniques, but this is literally what meditation is. I always get to a point in a lot of the retreats and presentations that we do and in my therapeutic practice where we end up talking about meditation. Meditation is giving the brain a focus so that it empties out everything else. So conceptually, what we're talking about is kind of numbing the brain from overthinking, but still giving it something to do, because the brain has to be functioning all the time. So some of the things that I do is I'll watch something that I've watched before. So I'll watch one of my favorite series and I'll just go in at, I don't know, some random number, not knowing which one it is, and I'll know a lot of it. So the brain will be engaged, but I'm not really thinking, but I'm preoccupied enough with what is there that I don't go into overwhelm or stressing about other things. So that's one example. I do it with listening to music too. The brain likes to listen to music. There'll be some background sort of processing that's going on with the brain, but you're not thinking about other things at the same time. If you find you do, then you need to change up your music so that you really listen to it. So it's brain numbing because you're not too stimulated, but it's stimulating at a base level where you don't go into other areas. Does that answer the question?
For me, it does. I hope that answers the question for whoever asked it. I think, yeah, that's a really lovely exercise to focus on one thing and not a multitude of different arms and legs and things. Brilliant, thank you, they said. So that's great.
Great.
Yeah, that's all fantastic. Thank you so much, and thank you for. Unless we have other questions come in, thank you so much for your time. It's really nice to be able to take this day that everyone can use that sort of touch points exercise, or take some of what you've said today and be able to put it into practice. And I think it's a nice reminder to think about the self and yourself. So thank you so much. I really appreciate both your time.
Thank you for having us, and thank you for everyone for joining in and kind of giving yourself this time as well. I know that we all live busy lives, so thank you for joining us. And as always, we're here if you do want to reach back out. And hopefully the resources will be helpful tomorrow as well to really kind of gift yourself a bit more time on this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there will be, it's time to talk day every day.
Yeah.
So when you get all the recordings tomorrow, or whenever you manage to listen back to this, and the one pages and resources, yeah, do put it into practice. And if you do have any questions, do reach out to Kitty, Jess, and the team. They're there. That's why we partnered with them. They're an incredible resource themselves. So yeah, do get in contact, start that conversation. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. I hope you all found it very insightful and useful.
Thank you so much. Don't forget, we are very nearby and your work is so valuable. So thank you, everybody, for being here and making the time today. Thanks.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.